right, back, Double or Nothing podcast. Obviously, different setup. I'm in Mexico for the week, so me and Johnny aren't going to be able to film together. Just going to kind of give you clips of what we each think about each game. I'm going to start releasing them today. Last week was a good week. Quick little recap. I went 11-4-1 against the spread, so it was a big week for me. Coming off 500 in week one, I went 7-7-2 in week one. So 11-4-1 against the spread is about as good as I can ask for. So hopefully we can continue to repeat that over and over. And follow the picks this week, baby. Right, we got Thursday night football, Jets home opener. Jets laying 6.5 against the Patriots. Jets coming off a big win against the Titans. They looked all right. And New England coming off a heartbreaker in overtime versus Seattle, a game that I don't think many people really kind of even expected them to be in. So I think the way the Jets run defense looks right now, and the way that the isn't good, and the way that the New England runs the ball, plays defense, I think it's too much points. I hope the Jets win. I'm a Jets fan, but I'd buy a half a point. If I'm from a gambling perspective, give me half a point, and I would buy it up to 7, take the Patriots +7 on Thursday Night Football.
All right, the next game that we have is the New England Patriots getting 6.5 at the New York Jets. The over-under is 38.5. These Thursday night games, 6.5 seems like a lot to give for the Jets that really haven't looked that great so far through the first 2 weeks. See, I'm wearing a Jet hat here. The Patriots have been able to run the ball. Jets missing some key players on the defensive line still, and who knows if Mosley is playing or if Reed's playing. The only thing I can lean towards is maybe the under 38.5. I know it seems a little bit low, but these two teams have been playing these low-scoring affairs the last couple of years, it seems like. And on another short week for the Jets, all I can see is a low-scoring game out of this one, so I'm going to lean to the under.
Next game we got is the Browns -6.5 versus the Giants. Browns are at home, and the Giants just haven't shown me anything through the first 2 weeks that it's going to make me roll with them in any of these games, especially against a top-rated defense like the Browns. I'm going to pretty much easily roll with the Browns -6.5. I could see this being a blowout. Pretty easy pick for me. I'm gonna take the Browns -6.5.
All right, the next game that we have is the New York Giants at the Cleveland Browns. The Giants are getting 6.5. The over/under is 38.5. Oh man, I'm actually gonna lean to the under 38.5 for this game. Both offenses of these teams have shown me absolutely nothing the first 2 weeks. I do like the defense from both sides, so one of those games. I don't trust either offense, honestly. So give me the under 38.5.
Next game we got is the Colts at home versus the Bears. Colts are laying 1 point. Spread's kind of saying that they think the Bears are a better football team, because it should probably be -3 if the Colts did what they were supposed to last week. They didn't, but I also think it's a good bounce back spot for the Colts. I think they're better than how they played last week. Anthony Richardson is usually very hot and cold, so I'm going to bet on the fact that he's going to be a little bit hotter than he was last week this week, and I'm going to roll with the Colts -1 at home. I think they're going to get a win here.
Next game we have is Chicago Bears getting 1.5 at the Indianapolis Colts. The over-under is 43.5. Didn't like the way either of these teams looked last week. I'll take the Colts, though, coming off a bounce-back loss that really got embarrassed. I'll take them at home -1.5. I haven't seen enough out of Caleb Williams to show me that he can actually lead this team to some victories, especially on the road.
All right, next game we got Vikings are at home off a big win against the Niners, which I don't think anybody saw coming. They're laying 2.5. They're getting 2.5 at home versus the Texans. Texans are on a little bit of a roll. I do think it's going to be fairly close. I think the Texans are a better football team. I think the Vikings will probably come back down to earth a little bit. I saw Justin Jefferson got banged up a little bit. I do think Addison's going to be coming back this week. It's a tough call. If it was 3, I'd lean Vikings, but since it's only 2.5, I'm going to roll with the Texans. I'm going to take the Texans minus 2.5 in this football game.
All right, our next game is the Houston Texans giving 2.5 to the Minnesota Vikings, who are at home this week. The over-under is 45.5. I'm actually going to lean to the over 45.5. It seems like a little low of a number for two teams that have put up some decent offensive points this year. I know that the Texans only scored 19 against the Bears. It was a sloppy game, but Minnesota's looked really strong their first 2 weeks. Loving what I'm seeing out of Sam Darnold in this offense, and back-to-back weeks, well over 20 points. So I'll take the over 45.5.
At home, next game is Saints at home versus the Eagles. Saints are laying 2.5. Saints are on an all-time high right now. I mean, they're just rolling. Eagles, the quarterback, the coach, can't make good decisions. Team's a really good football team, but I think the decision-making on both the head coach and the quarterback is killing them. You would think the Saints have to come back down to reality at some point, but I don't think it's going to be this week. I think the Saints are going to continue to roll. I'm going to take the Saints in the Dome at home, and I think they're going to stay high. I think they're going to beat the Eagles.
Our next game is Philadelphia Eagles getting 2.5 on the road against the New Orleans Saints. The over-under is 49.5. The Saints have been really good so far this year. Nothing bad to say about Derek Carr. Philly's defense hasn't shown me anything in these last 2 weeks, so I'm going to go with the New Orleans Saints minus 2.5. I mean, they put up a show in Dallas, and I expect against Philly's defense they'd probably do much of the same.
All right, next game, we got Steelers at home, minus 1.5 against the Chargers. Quarterback controversy is up in the air. Looks like Russell Wilson's still limited in practice. They'll probably roll with Justin Fields, I would think. Steelers defense is very, very, very good, but I don't know. I don't have the most faith in Justin Fields to get it done week in, week out. So I have a feeling he's going to kind of put in a bad week here, and I'm going to take the Chargers minus the 1.5 on the road.
All right, next game is LA Chargers on the road against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers minus 1.5. A low number, 35.5. This might be one of the lower ones that we've seen or will see probably this year. I'm going to take Pittsburgh, man. That defense has looked very, very good so far through the first 2 weeks. See what they did against the Falcons in week 1. Followed it up against the rookie Bo Nix week 2. Chargers like to run the ball. I mean, I would assume this would be a real low-scoring affair, but Pittsburgh's at home. West Coast team traveling east, 1 o'clock game. So I like Pittsburgh minus 1.5 here.
All right, next game we got the Bucks minus 6.5 at home versus the Denver Broncos. Yeah, the Broncos situation, I just don't think they're a very good football team. And I think Baker Mayfield is mid-stride with the Bucks, doing his thing. They're doing their thing on both sides of the ball, defensively, offensively. So I don't think the Broncos are going to be much of a match. If anything, maybe a backdoor cover here. But if it was 7, I'd maybe find myself leaning Broncos. But 6.5, I'm gonna stick with a hot Baker Mayfield. I'm gonna take the Bucks minus 6.5.
Our next game is the Denver Broncos getting 6.5 on the road against Tampa Bay. The over/under is low, 39.5. I'm actually going to take the favorite here, minus 6.5. That'd be Tampa Bay. Denver team, West Coast, traveling East Coast, 1 o'clock game. Loving what I'm seeing out of Baker in this offense. Looking pretty consistent. Bo Nix has to show me more before I could take him on the road. Like I said, especially in a 1 o'clock game. So I would take Tampa Bay.
We got Titans minus 2.5 at home versus the Packers. Looked like the Packers ran all over the place last week. Josh Jacobs looked great. Defense looked all right, but Malik Willis is still a starting quarterback, and I think Titans defense is better than people are giving them credit for. I think the Titans team is a little bit better. I know Will Levis has got to take a step forward, and play a little bit better than he's played, but I think some of the receivers made some good catches last week. Calvin Ridley had that incredible catch. They were in the game all game, so give me the Titans minus 2.5.
All right, our next game is the Green Bay Packers getting 2.5 against the Tennessee Titans over under 37.5. I'm gonna take the home team, Tennessee Titans minus 2.5. I know they made some costly mistakes in the first 2 weeks, and you gotta assume maybe Will Levis gets a little better, right? Blake Willis looked all right against the Colts the other week. He didn't really do too much. He just did enough. So, but even with that, I'll take the Titans at home, giving less than a field
Next
goal.
game, we got Raiders at home, -5.5 versus the Panthers. Listen, Panthers stink. They benched Bryce Young. I know they got Andy Dalton coming back, but still, I don't think the Panthers are a good football team, and you're never going to find me taking the Panthers in any of these games unless they start getting 15 points. So, give me the Raiders -5.5.
All right, next game we have the Carolina Panthers on the road getting 5.5 against the Las Vegas Raiders. The over/under is 39.5. Actually, going to take the Panthers here, believe it or not, getting 5.5. I think the change to Andy Dalton maybe rejuvenates his team a little bit, brings some life back to the wide receivers, maybe the fresh start that they're looking for to get that little boost. Raiders coming off a huge win against the Ravens. Always like a team after a big win to follow it up with a tough loss. So I'll take Panthers plus five and a
All
half.
right, next game we got Seahawks -4.5 at home versus the Dolphins. Tua situation last week knocks him out. They got Skylar Thompson as the backup. I think Tyler Huntley's the third string. He should probably get the nod over Skylar Thompson, so I don't know what they're doing there. But if Skylar Thompson plays and starts, I don't think he's going to do much with that offense, even though they have a lot of weapons everywhere. I just don't think he can bring that offense to a win. Seahawks at home are always a tough out. DK played great last week. I think that they had a tight game, overtime game, which I know they're probably exhausted, whatever. When these games go to overtime, it's very hard to cover the next week. But without Tua, give me the Seahawks -4.5.
All right, our next game is Miami Dolphins on the road against Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks are -4.5. The spread is over under 41.5. I like the Seahawks here -4.5. They've looked pretty well offensively the first 2 weeks so far against pretty good defenses. Miami's defense is just questionable right now. Quarterback situation is what it is. So, you know what? Feel pretty confident. Give me the Seahawks -4.5.
Next game, we got Arizona at home getting 3 points versus the Lions. I know the Lions are a good football team, but Kyler Murray's on one right now. Looks like him and Marvin Harrison Jr. kind of figured it out in week 2. I'm a huge Kyler guy. I was a huge Cardinals guy coming into the year, so I think they're going to stay hot. I think they're going to roll into another good game this week. The Lions are obviously a great football team. This will be a shootout, but give me the Cardinals getting 3 at home playing the way they're playing.
Our next game is the Detroit Lions -3 on the road against Arizona Cardinals. Over under is 51.5. I'm actually going to take the over 51.5 here. I think Detroit put up a lot of yards against Tampa Bay, just couldn't seem to get in the end zone. A lot of big mistakes. Arizona had a huge game last week against the Rams, scoring a ton of points on their own. So, two bad defenses, I feel like, going into this game, two high-powered offenses. I'll take the over 51.5.
All right, next game we got Cowboys at home getting 1.5 versus the Ravens. Both teams off a bad week. Cowboys probably a little bit more so than the Ravens, but both two teams that definitely expected to win the games they played last week, and Cowboys got rolled. Saints came in hot, just annihilated them, and the Ravens kind of, were neck and neck all game, but wound up losing to the Raiders. Both the regular season monsters not looking so hot, but give me the Cowboys at home getting points. I think it's a really close game. I think the Cowboys are going to bounce back. I think the Cowboys have more to bounce back from than the Ravens do. I think the Ravens kind of played the way they play and just kind of didn't come out with the win, whereas I think the Cowboys didn't play like themselves, and I think they're going to bounce back in a big way. And, I think they're going to take down Lamar and the Ravens at home. Give me the Cowboys.
All right, next up, we have the Baltimore Ravens on the road giving the Dallas Cowboys 1.5 here. The over/under is 48.5. Oof, this is a really tough game. Honestly, this is like a stay away game for me. But um, forcing to pick one, I'll take the under 48.5. Both teams tough losses last week. Dallas getting blown out at home. Ravens losing to the Raiders, a game that they should have won. Uh, you know what? I think both defenses come to play this week. Both have a lot to prove. So give me the under 48.5.
Next game, we got the Rams at home getting 7.5 versus the 49ers. I mean, listen, 7.5 is a crazy number, but the Rams have more injuries than anybody in football. They have no Puka, no Cooper Kupp, lost a bunch of other guys on the offensive line, defensive side of the ball. The Niners are coming off a horrible loss versus the Vikings, which I think everyone expected them to win. So give me the Niners in a roll here. I think the Niners are going to roll the Rams. So absolute blowout. Niners minus 7.5.
All right, next up, we have the San Francisco 49ers giving the LA Rams 7.5 points. The Rams are at home, over under 44.5. This is such a tough game, honestly. The cluster of injuries for both teams. Debo is the most important player on this team, on the 49ers. No him, no McCaffrey. The Rams looked awful last week and blown out by the Cardinals. Shanahan has owned this rivalry against McVay. 7.5 seems like a lot, but it is tough. I don't know what I'm going to get out of the Rams here this week. They have injuries on the O line. No Kupp, no Puka. I'm going to take San Fran here, minus 7.5. It's only minus 105, so you hope that number goes to 7. So I'll take San Fran.
Next game, we got Atlanta Falcons at home getting 3.5 versus the Chiefs. Chiefs are obviously a great football team, and I don't see why they're going to stop playing well at any point. But Falcons have a little bit more confidence, kind of went out there, proved that they can get it done in a big moment. Kirk got over the primetime hurdle, drove downfield last drive of the game, put the game away. So give me the Falcons getting the hook, getting a 0.5 point at home. 3.5. It'll be a close game. I'm sure the Chiefs will win, but give me the 3.5 with the Falcons at home.
All right. Next up, we have the Sunday night game. The Kansas City Chiefs on the road against the Atlanta Falcons. The Chiefs are given 3.5. The over/under is 46.5. Man. Didn't like the way Atlanta looked for the first 3.5 quarters against the Eagles Monday night. Didn't like the way the Chiefs looked against the Bengals last week either. But I'm still going to lay the 3.5 with the Chiefs. Primetime slot. Got to go against primetime Kirk Cousins. Can't see him winning 2 primetime games in a row, right? So I think the Chiefs were kind of embarrassed with how they played last week. So I'll take the Chiefs minus 3.5. Don't love it, though.
This is the first Monday night game. There's 2 this week. We got the Bills at home, minus 4.5, playing against the Jags. Jags, man, they need to get it together. The 4.5 is a lot. I think the Jags are a capable football team. Bills are rolling right now. They're hot. Their offense is good, but 4.5 just seems like a little too much. I do think Trevor Lawrence is going to kind of turn a page this week, figure it out, get the team back to a point where they feel like they can compete. Bills probably find a way to win. It's so close, but I'm going to roll with the 4.5. It seems like it's a little much for the Jags and that offense to be getting 4.5. So.
All right, our next game is the Jacksonville Jaguars getting 4.5 on the road against the Buffalo Bills. Over/under is 45.5. I like the Buffalo Bills here, minus 4.5. Honestly, they've looked unbelievable the last 2 weeks. They're coming off extended rest right here. Jacksonville has not looked great their first 2 weeks. Seemed like, they've had control week 1, and then week 2, they just couldn't find the end zone against the Browns. So, Buffalo's on a roll right here. I 4.5 doesn't seem like too many points to give to this team right now, especially when they're at home. So I'll take the Bills minus 4.5.
All right, in the second Monday night game in Cincinnati, Bengals are home, laying 7.5 against the Washington Commanders. The Commanders look like their offense is kind of figuring it out. They got to score kind of put the ball in the end zone a little bit more. I mean, they kicked, I don't know, 7 field goals, I think, last week. They didn't even put the ball in the end zone. It doesn't seem like that's going to change against the Bengals defense, but 7.5 is a lot of points for a quarterback as electric as Jaden Daniels, a guy who can kind of extend drives, extend plays. So wearing the Bengals hat, big Joey B guy, but give me the Commanders in the 7.5 on Monday night.
All right, our last game of the week, we have the Washington Commanders getting 7.5 on the road against the Cincinnati Bengals. A Monday night game. Over under is 46.5. I kind of like the Bengals minus 7.5. I don't love this particularly. I wouldn't make this bet, especially on the hook with the half, but rookie quarterback, primetime spot, road game, coming off a week that didn't score an offensive touchdown. Bengals just had a heartbreak to the Chiefs. They don't want to go on 3. They'll be playing their hearts out for this one. So, I had to lean one way. I'd take Cincinnati minus 7.5.